some questions. I'm going to pose some questions. We're going to take some questions from participants in the chat, and we will, we'll move along. And first, I would like to invite Rebecca Mitchell to give us a beautiful land acknowledgement that she has crafted. So go for it. Rebecca, no sound? Okay. All right. When you get that worked out, feel free to.
You're muted, Rafa.
I'm also muted. Thank you. Okay, so we will definitely get started. Welcome, everyone. The first thing that we are going to talk about, I would like to invite Ms. Ortez to talk about a little bit maybe about her personal history, how you came to be in the position of New Mexico State Representative for District 42, I believe. Is that true? Is that right? And what is your job essentially, and how can we access you for support in the various communities that you represent? So it's kind of a chunk. Go for it.
Rafa, do you mind if I ask Rebecca to she's back on, if she can unmute, we can do the land acknowledgement now.
Great.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Yeah, I had my buttons to mute and do the video until it started recording, and then all of a sudden the buttons were just gone. So sorry about that. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to do our land acknowledgement. As a preface, we do this because genuine healing and relationships start with being able to look beyond ourselves and our own self-interest. We want to honor and recognize the land and the lived experience and realities of others. A land acknowledgement is only a superficial step in the hard work of seeing and understanding the Indigenous history and lived experience of Indigenous peoples. We want to acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the unceded land of the Pueblo of Picaris and Taos, whose ancestors have walked and stewarded this landscape since before national claims to this territory were made by Spain, Mexico, and the United States, and before the establishment of the state of New Mexico. We live, work, and gather with people from Picaris and Taos Pueblos. For some of us, they're not only our neighbors, but are also part of our family, whether currently or historically. And we recognize that this informs the discussion for which we are gathered for today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Ortez.
Thank you, Rafa. Thank you, Rebecca. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. It's a beautiful day. There's basketball to watch. So, I understand that we've got lots of obligations and wanting to get outside. So I'm really grateful that you've given me the time today. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Kristina Ortez. I am originally from a small town called Madera in the central San Joaquin Valley of California. It's an agricultural community. So, I grew up with that background of everyone in my family being a farm worker. So I have this, I think, a deep connection with land. I came here to Taos in 2010, and I was pregnant with my first child. And so I have been living here since then. So 11 years now. And I am honored and grateful to live in this beautiful community. I'm also the executive director of the Taos Land Trust. The state legislature is unpaid, so I support myself and my family by working at the Land Trust, and I do encourage all of you to check that out. And I'd like to spend more time in Peñasco, working with those of you who work the land. So how did I come to be here? I have heard something like a woman has to be asked 7 times before she considers seriously running for office. I was asked many times to think about something and to run for something, and I kind of didn't. I just poo-pooed it for a while, but finally, I was asked in 2019 to consider putting my name in the hat for to replace the irreplaceable Senator Carlos Cisneros, and I went through that process. And I wasn't chosen by the governor. She chose the right person in Senator Bobby Gonzalez, but she told me something very important, the governor, when she called to let me down, which was that she would support me in a run for something else. And so I really thought about that, and then I chatted with her and decided that I would run for the open seat of House Representative, the seat that Senator Gonzalez held for many, many years, to over 2 decades. So that I started on that path. My candidacy coincided with COVID, so it was a very strange way to run for office. I did a lot of phone calls, did a lot of Zooms, but didn't get a chance really to go door knocking, which is what I think all of you are kind of used to when it comes to running for office. So and I won, and it spent my first year, this last year, really doing the work of state government via Zoom, which is I think no way to really to run government, but we do what we can in this strange time. The state representatives, the state legislature is responsible for policy making and for spending the state's money, right? For appropriating the state's money to various agencies and programs. So, that's what we do. We look at, we decide on laws that will govern the way we live, policies that dictate our water and land use and criminal justice system, amongst other things. I'm on 2 committees. One of them is state government, Indian affairs and elections, and in that's the state committee. That's the committee that decides things like licensures for cosmetologists, and things like that. That's also an essential part of state government. Licensing and registration and those things are decided on by the state legislature. But I think probably the most important function is how we spend the money, and that happens in a variety of ways, but first through appropriations. I am not on that committee, but I pay attention to what's happening there. So the job is, it's focused on those things. And for me, my focus is on representing the issues that this district cares about. And they're very different, right? So what I find myself focusing for my own legislation on things like natural resources, acequia, water protection, funding for those kinds of things. I'll talk more about specific bills, but I also want you to know that what has risen to the top here in our entire district is the need for affordable housing. My cat's about to cross the screen, so I apologize. I can't stop her. She's a middle-aged woman on a mission. So, there she goes. So housing is the issue that is really plaguing all of us in every, every corner of this district, right? Finding housing that is affordable, that is safe, that is energy efficient. And that really is something that I've kind of taken on as one of my biggest issues. So I'll be working on a tenants' rights bill that we believe will be on the call, and really working with our agencies to direct funding to building more affordable workforce housing. I'm going to now post something in the chat, which is the way to reach me. And I hope that this can make its way. I'm not sure if it's going to make its way onto Facebook, but you know, I encourage you to call me on my cell, and I'm going to say it out loud: 575-770-7792. And I'll keep posting it throughout the chat. So if people do come on, they'll have access to that. And I'm also very easily reached via email. And that's Kristina.Ortez, Kristina with a K, Ortez with an E, at nmlegis.gov. That's probably the easiest way to reach me. Apologize again for the cat. She's tenacious. So that's a little bit about me, and we're going to dig into some issues. We'll talk about 3 big issues and then questions. Yeah, Rafa?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Great.
All right. So the first thing that we have on our agenda is about the redistricting. And it's something I've been kind of thinking about, because the history of redistricting is oftentimes really to limit voting rights, primarily of folks of color. And I know that there's several options up for choice, or I'm not sure how the choice gets made, but maybe vote, maybe whatever, you can say what that is. And so I would like for you to be able to talk about that, what the options are, what's the impact of those choices on, particularly for Penasco and kind of the surrounding area. And also, one of the things I was thinking about is there is some redistricting ideas for the Pueblo consensus map. And if you could talk about that in relation to concept E, and how we can support things that don't pit communities against each other and still get adequate representation. So that's kind of a lot. You can break it down however you want.
All right, I'm bringing up the maps, and I think I have access right now. I can share my screen. So before I do that though, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the process. So on Monday, December 6th, I will go to Santa Fe, and we will start the special session that is focused on redistricting. What's also happening in that special session, I believe, is some conversations potentially appropriating some of the ARPA dollars. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but the redistricting is probably the most critical. It's the reason why we're here. The reason why we're here, we'll be in the session. So this year is different from any other year that we do redistricting, which is every 10 years. This year we had a citizens redistricting committee that was composed of, folks appointed by the governor and the legislature, judges, experts. They were appointed with non-partisanship as the focus, right? So what we're trying to do is to manage the maps of districts at the state house level, the state senate level, the congressional level, and then the public education commission. And we have to change the way those maps look and where the lines are drawn on those maps based on population size. And over the last 10 years, there's been a ton of population growth. Some communities grew exponentially. Some communities lost people. So, for instance, Rio Rancho, there are districts that represent the Rio Rancho area of, in Bernalillo, Sandoval County, that grew by 11,000 people, right? There are some districts that lost 10,000 people. So we need to do some realignment. So what it means is that, in the past, what I have heard is that there's always major battles between, legislators around where the lines are drawn. which precincts move or not move. And folks have always sort of put their gloves on and battled for their communities. And I think that, you know, probably rightly so in some cases, right? They've been representing these communities for 10 years and all of a sudden things are different. So what we've never had before, and all those decisions, right, have been made by the legislature, and then they have, you know, they have been sued over, right? So the decisions were ultimately made by a judge, right? So what is happening now and how it's so different is that we've got this group of people who have done work in community with communities of interest, Acequia communities, with the Pueblos, with the, you know, with Navajo Nation, to try to come up with some concepts that that represent the comments that they've heard all around the state. And that's what we have in front of us now. And I'm going to now share my screen to show you some of the maps that we're talking about, right? So I'm going to show the first, oh wait, I got to share my screen first, right? All right, I'm always nervous when this happens, but I'm gonna try it. Okay, here we go. All right, can you guys see this? Yeah, okay, great. This is the first of 3 maps that have been adopted by the Citizens Redistricting Committee. And what I'll do when I go back is I'll put that in the chat where you can look at all these maps in detail. Right, so they're showing us 3 maps, and somebody, I don't know who yet, will introduce legislation on the House side and on the Senate side separately that really adopts one of these maps. From, this is how I understand it, and it might be different. There's been there aren't very many House representatives who have been through the redistricting process. There was only a couple of them. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. So this is, you know, Taos County outlined, and this recommendation takes this district and changes it up a little bit, right? You can't see what the original district is, but what you can see here is that I'm gonna go in a little bit. Right now, my district does not have this. Can you see my arrow? I mean, this is my hand. This currently is Susan Herrera's district, right? And you can see here, District 40 is held by Roger Montoya. So right now, this cuts the district. So Chamizal, basically all of this is my district currently. All this in blue that's on this other side of the map, right? This is Taos County. So all of this is currently the district. So with this map, this would move into this blue area is going to be District 40. So this district will lose several precincts that represent these communities: Chamizal, Ojito, Sipapu, Tres Ritos. These will all go into District 40. There may be some additional changes, but this is a map that is, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not going too fast, but this is a map that is supported by a number of pueblos right now. So nothing changes really up here. This is all, there's not much difference here. You'll see the reason that, this is in orange here, that's Representative Herrera's district. It does include some of Taos County, really for the numbers, right? As you said, Rafa, it's a numbers game. And so we need to, each of the districts has to have, similar numbers, where there's no way you could get even numbers for each district. It's just not going to happen. And so we need to make sure that there's some consistency here. So it includes, Susan's has a carve out here for some of Arroyo Hondo, just to give her some extra numbers. Okay, so that's this is the map that represents the least amount of change in the
What-
district.
What map name is this?
This is map E.
Okay,
This
so
is map
concept
E. Yep, concept E, and it also includes the comments from the Acequia Association and the Acequia community. So it is right now one that is, that does have a lot of support. Okay, so now we're going to go to map I. Oh, I don't know if, can you see this? Do I have to can you see me changing? Okay, good. It's loading. It's going to take a minute because it's very it's slow. It's a lot of data that's coming through. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for that to show up. I'm sorry, I thought it was already all loaded up. I'm gonna turn all my Wi-Fi off so that I can, it's speedier.
Who
you can ask
developed all these maps?
These maps were developed by community members in consultation with the Citizens Redistricting Committee, right? I think there are 7 people on that committee. I don't know why. Is everybody looking at these maps right now? I'm gonna turn off that one. I'm gonna turn off this one, and hopefully that'll make a difference. This, I don't know what is happening and why it's taking so long to load this. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. You're starting to see it now, right? Half of it. Oh, I apologize. It is I think it's a function of the bandwidth here. Okay, here we go. So now you see the difference here is pretty marked, right? Like it is I would say a third of the county is cut off here and is subsumed by District 40. And I think, again, that's a number situation. I didn't lose my district. I'm going to be really, I'm trying not to personalize this. House District 42 did not lose population. We gained a little bit. We didn't gain a ton, but House District gained, like, I don't know, 1,000 people maybe. So that means that we've got a little bit of wiggle room here. So in this map, and I'm gonna try to get some information on the side here so that I can paint the counties. Lock already. Okay, I think that'll do it. Okay, so now you see Taos County, right? Let's see. This concept I, and this has Pueblo and Navajo Nation input, has this district 42 adding some. You'll see the color here. Oh, I'm sorry, that keeps doing that. I might have to kind of get closer. The green outside of the county includes Eagle Nest and Angel Fire, right? So that's where the numbers are coming. And then it's losing quite a bit in the south. And I think what I need to do is stop that. Okay, I'm gonna unlock the, this is a terrible program. I got to get closer in so you can see what is happening here. I don't know. Let me see if I can reload this thing, okay? But basically what this map is doing, Peñasco area, actually almost all of Ranchos, Talpa, that's all. I'm gonna stop the share. I'm gonna stop the share for a second while I get that map loaded. That whole area, you're all of Peñasco, Talpa, Ranchos, Pot Creek, all of that goes to District 40, and District 42 adds Colfax County, and so the more populated area is Colfax County. Angel Fire, and Eagle Nest. So that is it is the map that represents a lot of change for you guys specifically. All right, so I'm able to reload this again. So I'm going to, and I apologize, I don't know if it's my computer or if it's this program, if other people are looking at it, but I'm hoping that I can load this up. This is what happens when you deal with with a dynamic system. It's not loading up the communities very well for me.
Can I
Can I
ask you
put this?
something really quick?
Yeah,
Sorry.
please.
How many map options are on the table, and what do you think? Which one is what you would support?
There are 3 options on the table. It's not concept 1, it's concept I. That's the map for concept I that I'm trying to bring up. There are 3 maps. I am, makes the most sense for communities of interest. That's what I want. Okay, I'm having an unstable internet situation.
Can you say
Oh,
that?
hey, what? Yep, hold on a second.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the maps weren't loading because I was on the wrong internet connection. Now I'm on the right one. I've got 2 in my house. Okay, so can you guys? I got the maps back. So I'm gonna jump to this map so I can show you what's going on. Okay, and so it means I'm gonna share my screen. I don't want to say that I'm not agnostic on it, right? I want a map. Can you see this? You can see this. I want a map that represents communities of interest. I want a map. I want to choose a map that represents what the Pueblos and Navajo, and our other tribal indigenous communities, Navajo Nation need, right? That represents them. I want to make sure that we have like communities together. These are some of the driving forces right behind how these maps were chosen. So map I, which is what we're looking at here. So in blue, this is all blue. This is what the district will look like if we choose map I, which means that you'll see the blue in blue where it says Ranchos de Taos. That's the cutoff. So what it looks like is then that District 40, I'm just trying to get out a little bit, will have all of, I don't know if that makes any sense. It's like impossible to work with. So, I can't go into super detail because it's not functioning for me the way it should. There's another map J, which is not too dissimilar. Cuts the county almost in half. And so Peñasco and Peñasco area communities would be in District 40. Now, I'm not saying that would, I think it's an interesting idea, right? Does Peñasco have more in common with Mora? Maybe in some cases it does. The benefits to all of these maps, the way I see it, is that Taos County will have an additional representative supporting the county, right? So it would be, that there's an opportunity there for more capital outlay funding, to have another, another House member fighting for the needs of the community. Right now, I think that map E is more like the county, like the maps that exist right now. The way it looks for the Peñasco area is this. There will be some precincts that would likely move to District 40. Like the entirety of El Valle would move into District 40, but the rest of the Peñasco area would stay in 42. So, you know, we'll be getting, what I've heard is that there will be more changes to each of these maps as it comes into the legislative session, and we get the, you know, the legislation in front of us. And I want to tell you this, like, I highly recommend you looking at the maps. And I'm going to put the Citizens Redistricting Committee information on here so that you can look at that. And I will keep folks apprised of what's happening. And I'm very open to another meeting like this, if we're getting to the point where you're like, these are the precincts, we got to protect these precincts or move these precincts over. I need to hear from you. We all need to hear from you. So as we enter into the session, you know, and we have our meetings, the first meeting that any map will come into is state government, Indian affairs, and elections, and that's my committee, right? So we'll see that, and it's likely to happen on Tuesday, December 7th. And then it'll move over, that will take public comment. We'll make adjustments to this, and then it'll go to the House Judiciary. House Judiciary will take another look at those maps, and we'll make sure that, and we'll really focus on the you know, the sort of the justice angle of this, right? To make sure that communities of interest are, you know, are being represented, and that, you know, so there's another opportunity there to take input, and then it'll go to the House floor, and then it'll be, you know, discussed again in detail, 3 hours for that. And then it moves over to the Senate side once it's decided, whatever maps are decided, what the legislation is you know, is passed. And then the Senate will have 2 more goes at it. And then they'll probably make some changes. And if they make changes, it'll come back over to us, and we'll have to reconcile that in a conference committee, right? To make sure that we, you know, that we're okay with those changes. The House decides the House map, the congressional map. The Senate will decide their own maps, and maybe the PEC, and then we'll kind of swap, right? So we'll go through our process, and then we'll swap. At every point, I need to hear from you, and, you know, over and over again, right? And if there are concerns, you got to let me know so that I can represent those concerns in, you know, both in my committee and on the House floor. 3 maps. There's going to be some changes to each of them. It feels to me that map E is sort of most like the district that exists right now. It has input from acequias, from pueblos. I don't know how close Navajo, the Navajo Nation and the pueblos are negotiating, and if I and J are more representative of their needs. Those are all details that I will find out more when I enter the session. But it's a big deal, right? It will change, you know, the Peñasco area will be represented differently.
Does that mean, does that change the financial situation, and yeah, allocation of money to those districts based on population, based on need? Like, how does that change?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. You know, we each get, and we'll talk a little bit about capital outlay, right? Like, each of the representatives gets an X number of dollars for capital outlay based on the budget, right? Based on like surplus and all of that. I guess there are some years where there was like nothing. Last year, I think I had 1.47 million. Senator Gonzalez has more than that. I think a little over 2 million. You know, every legislator gets the same amount of money. So I think regardless of what happens with these maps, there will absolutely be House District 40 will represent some of Taos County, which means that some of House District 40's capital outlay dollars, for instance, will be, you know, I mean, I would hope that, you know, if it's, you know, whoever's representing that district, whoever is representing House District 42 in the future will will be putting capital outlay dollars in all areas of the county, right? So that's the impact. I think it's a positive thing that Southern Taos County will likely be represented by 2 people. I think that's a positive thing, because it means more eyes on the district, on the region. It means potentially more funding, that's what it looks like to me.
Thank you.
Don't
That's a lot. Go ahead.
Yes,
Go
don't ask
ahead.
me about the Senate maps. I don't know anything about the Senate maps right now. I've just been looking at, like, precinct by precinct for House District 42. The Senate maps, I am very, very happy to have another town hall, to discuss this directly if we need to, or right after we do the redistricting, I can do another one before we go into the next session.
Mhm. I think I'm gonna, I was gonna have maybe questions at the end, but I think it's helpful to have questions for each section, because that way we're like on topic still. So I wanted to
Sure.
just ask folks if you had any questions about the information moving forward from here. You can type it into the chat and it will come to me. And I can ask your question. That's fine. One of the things that already came through, and maybe you covered this, I'm not sure, what a state representative does and can do.
Whew. So what we do is we represent an area of the state, and we take your concerns to the roundhouse and we do a couple different things, right? So we meet as a body in January through March on odd numbered years, and January through February on even numbered years for our regular session. The governor can call us into special session throughout the year to talk about specific topics. Like this past year, we had a special session on cannabis because we didn't finish that legislation at the end of the session. We represent your needs, the constituents' needs by connecting constituents with various agency staff. I get a lot of emails about the MVD, because MVD maybe could use a little bit of support, extra support. So I get a lot of those questions. I get a lot of questions about unemployment taxes and unemployment checks, tax issues in general. So people, or potholes. Can't do a lot about potholes. That's your local government, right? But I get emails sent to me and like, hey, I have this problem. So then I can take that information and send it to the person who can be the most help. Sometimes I send text messages and emails directly to the tax and revenue secretary, cabinet secretary, sometimes to the, workforce solutions, interim secretary right now. So those are the kinds of things that I do. What we do generally though, as the body, is we vote on policies, right? Whether or not, like regulating gun safety, for instance, or last year what happened was we voted to repeal the ban on abortions. That was a big vote, and controversial. We vote on funding for various things. That's probably the biggest thing that we do, right? Is to is to vote on the tax structure, how much pays, who pays what and how much, and how to allocate those monies that we're bringing in, what agencies, what their agency budget looks like, and we make appropriations to their budget. So we figure out how to raise the money, and then we figure out how to spend it. That's sort of like the biggest thing I think that we do. Yeah, and that's what we'll be doing in the special session, not only voting on the redistricting, which happens every 10 years, right? But also this year, we're going to be distributing, allocating, appropriating some of those American Rescue Plan Act funds. Just a few weeks ago, the courts decided that that Governor that our governor would not be appropriating those monies. And so now the legislature will. There's a bit of a scramble right now, right? Because we just found out about this. And so what I have heard is that we will be probably not appropriating all of it. It's like 1.1, $1.2 billion of ARPA funds, right? That's in addition to the ARPA funds that have gone directly to the county. Taos County got $6+ billion or will be getting that. I think I don't know if they got it all already or if it's in tranches. Taos County also has CARES Act money, right? That I think it's still appropriating. So that's their money. This is the state money, right? And there's a lot of it. There's another bucket of money which we're not going to talk about in the redistricting necessarily, but there's the $3.7 billion that came from the infrastructure bill, right? The bipartisan infrastructure fund, the BIF. So that's a lot of money, right? That's going to roads and bridges and water infrastructure projects. And so I know the water infrastructure issues are huge. I want you to know that I will be having conversations with Marty Chavez, who is the infrastructure money guru / czar. So he'll be, making recommendations to the governor about how to spend that money. So I want you guys to be thinking about your big projects that you need. And if you haven't done so already, having conversations with the county to put, your needs on the ICIP, which is basically the infrastructure capital outlay projects, right? Capital improvement projects. There's a list. And for me and Senator Gonzalez, we can only, maybe that's not quite true. We use the ICIP list from the county to understand the priorities in terms of funding. And the state government can only appropriate money for capital outlay directly to what we call political subdivisions, right? So not to nonprofits, but to schools are a political subdivision, acequia associations are a political subdivision, and the towns and county, soil and water districts, those are all kind of like agencies that can accept state money. A clinic that is a nonprofit can't get money directly from state government. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we have with some of this funding is that, there are amazing nonprofits that are doing really, really incredible work. But we can't fund that directly. We can't fund a nonprofit directly. So I think that's a big challenge.
Can I ask you something really quickly?
Yeah, please.
On tangent, like on that vein, what is the representative's relationship to the county, and in terms of like influence, and like we can tell you if we have all these issues, right?
Yeah.
But then if the county government is not responsive in the way that we need it to be, then what are our options if they're the ones that are like getting the money?
Yep. That's a really, really great question. I talked to the county commissioners quite a bit and to the county manager quite a bit. And it's really important that you let me know what your needs are, and then I can reinforce that message with the county, right? That's really, really important. Everybody's doing their prioritizing right now, and like it is, I think it's incumbent upon me. I feel like it's my role to make sure that we've got the voices saying, like, asking for what they need. So I didn't see anything on the county's ICIP for Penasco area communities. So I need, I think what the best thing to do is for me to call our commissioner, Commissioner O'Donnell, and the other county commissioners, and then I'll call the county manager to make sure that we've got that loop start, going, so that I know what it is that you need. You can also separately put request capital outlay funds, through, what are the political subdivision in Peñasco? You've got some, Asaki associations, but really it's the county, right, that can appropriate directly. So you need to let me know. You need to let your commissioner know, and Britt Jaramillo, who is the county manager, know about the priorities so that we can make sure that we get you the funding that you need through capital outlay. And the schools.
Yeah, the schools. Let me ask you a follow-up. So, the county, they put out RFPs and whatnot for monies, right? So we have to apply and there's like they grade you on different stuff or whatever. And it seems to me like these monies that are coming through shouldn't be determined by a successful RFP. So what is the procedure that they're going to adopt, or is there stipulations from the state, from the federal government for these agencies to distribute the money, right? If they put up a system that we can't win in technically, right? Then how do we get the funds that are being allocated?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we've got how much time? I mean, we've got like 35 more minutes to talk about this. This is the problem. This is the problem, is that under capitalized communities and communities that have, challenges with just with grant writers, the ability to, the lack of time and resources to write the grants, those communities continue to get looked over. This is all around, right? This is all over the state. So I think that there are different guidelines for the use of the federal monies through ARPA and through CARES Act, which I still think is being appropriated. So there are different guidelines for that. The county, I believe, is still, I think they're pretty close to finalizing those guidelines for how the monies are going to be put out. But I am going to give them the message that we've got to make sure that we are not penalizing a community for for having fewer resources, to ask for that money. It doesn't mean that you have fewer needs. So we've got to rectify that, right? Because right now it's the one who can ask for it that gets it, or the one who can work the system who gets it. That's always been the case, right? But we must do better. We've got to have a system that that is based on equity. So it's a good question. I cannot answer it completely, but I'm hearing it.
I mean,
we've
been in contact and conversation and meetings with the county, right? And also with Candace O'Donnell, and expressing our desire to have input on what those guidelines are, right? Because if they're not getting that input from the communities, then the guidelines don't match the capacity, right, for the communities that they're trying to serve. So that's also one piece of information, is they need to include the voices of the people in the community for to make sense of what the guidelines are, right? If they're just making up stuff we're not going to be able to do, then it's not very helpful, right? Okay, so I'm going to look at the chat really quick. Right, and one of the things that's in the chat is the RFP, they seldom ask about services to the entire community, right? So sometimes the RFPs are directed, right, for some specific thing. And I'm assuming that's kind of what the question is related to, right? Like, yeah, there's not really, I don't know what else to say about that.
I mean, I am hearing you, like, I hear you, and I'm going to convey the message. I will.
I'm going to move from the redistricting right now. So if there isn't any other questions about that, it seems like the desire for the conversation is to move into the budget talk. And you did speak a lot about that, and capital outlays specifically, and maybe even, I guess you can't really say what's available. Can you say what's available for small rural communities like Penasco and the surrounding area? And you touched a little bit on how some of that money is going to come out and how we can access it through the county primarily is the answer to that question, right?
I think so, Rafa. I mean, it's a little bit confusing to me. And I think that this is the year that we have more money than ever before. We were already entering the budget year with $1.7 billion surplus from the year before, which means more money to spend, right? And then we still have the ARPA funds to spend as a legislature as well, 1.1 to 1.4 billion. And then we've got the 3.7 billion from infrastructure. So I look at this as just a rare and remarkable opportunity to help our rural communities. And I want you to know how much of a champion our representative to the South, Representative Roger Montoya, has been for rural communities. He had the memorial that established the rural, opportunities task force that basically turned into an interim committee where people, they met all over the state and they heard from communities about the needs for rural infrastructure dollars and resources. So that is a recurring theme, and there's a booming voice, in the legislature about how we can make sure that we get money to rural communities, right? What I don't know yet is how much is in each bucket. I don't know yet, and I won't know. I didn't know until, oh my God, the third or fourth week of an 8-week session about how much I was going to get in capital outlay. I will tell you that I got a spreadsheet that had $200 million worth of requests, and I had 1.47 to give away, to give back to communities, right? To invest in communities. That is, it is an impossible choice. So I will say that if you have projects that are like in the 25, 50, 30, up to 100, if you're able to $100,000, if you're able to phase out your projects for capital outlay, that's easier for me. If you have big projects, wastewater treatment plant, big infrastructure project, you got to tell me and Representative Montoya and Senator Gonzalez, and we can, as a community, kind of figure out how to pay for these things. And with all the various buckets that we've got, right? We've got the infrastructure bucket, we've got the capital outlay bucket, we've got the ARPA bucket. I don't know what it looks like yet because they haven't told us, right? People know, I think, or their conversations are happening, but I don't know what it looks like. I don't know if this year, because of the surplus, there'll be $2.5 million for capital outlay, or if it means that there'll be $100 million for, rural water infrastructure projects. There might be, right? So I think what I look at this as an opportunity to really bring all of us together to start focusing on those projects that make sense, right? That can be funded in a variety of ways, through federal dollars, through state dollars, through county dollars, and through philanthropic dollars for those things that are run by nonprofits. So I know that what that adds up to is a whole lot of nothing in terms of information that I'm giving you. I'm in the dark as well. But I can tell you that when I know, I will let you know.
So in terms of the Build Back Better, what is more directed to like human need and not necessarily the infrastructure? Those are two separate things.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question that came through the chat around that, the human investment, about monies for substance misuse at the legislative level, and what help, can we expect to have in our community from regarding that?
That's a really amazing question. I'm going to take the Build Back Better first. I am sorry to say, I don't even know if it's passed Congress yet. Anybody know? Yes, has it? I know it passed the House. It's going to Congress. It might have to go back to the House after it's changed. But I know that I do know that Build Back Better will have money for what they're calling the care economy, right? And for also for climate change. And I believe that there will be funding for, you know, folks who are working in the, you know, in healthcare, including, you know, substance use, you know, folks who are working, you know, in the sort of the detox substance use disorder field. And I just don't know how much it's going to be. And I also don't know, because I think we're waiting to see what happens with the infrastructure money that already exists, how it's going to be spent at the state level, right? There is this person, Marty Chavez, who is going to be allocating the infrastructure dollars or making the recommendations. Will it be the same person who will be allocating Build Back Better dollars? I don't know. I don't know. Will it go right to the county? These are questions, you know, I'm going to, if it's cool, I will be asking Edward Tabet Cubero, who is the state director for Senator Martin Heinrich. I'll ask him what that looks like, and I'll let you know. But I just very quickly want to answer the second question about, you know, the increasing issue of substance use disorder and behavioral health and mental health needs in our community. I know, I am working with the county to figure out how we can commit the resources at the state and county level to the infrastructure that is needed, right? We need detox, we do, but we also really, really need support for, through licensed therapists and support for folks. I also believe that if we start tackling the issues of poverty and trauma that we have in our community, we can, that's a systemic level that we can start turning the wheel a little bit here. So I have some homework to do. I knew this would happen. I could just look at your face, Rafa, and know that you are excited about giving me homework. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, I'm gonna make the phone calls I need to make.
There's a hand, and I'm not sure, I guess I can unmute it, and for Jonah Griego to ask a question.
Yes, hi, thank you for taking time to being here tonight. I had a question about I want to make sure I get the name right, the Martinez versus State of New Mexico and Yazzie versus State of New Mexico ruling, where it talks about education as a fundamental right. It's kind of been disproportionately not helping Hispanics in the rural communities in New Mexico. I was looking at your committee memberships and I'm not sure honestly the difference between standing and interim committees. Do you have any say-so on how funds will be allocated to independent school districts like Peñasco? And do you have an idea where the state legislature is looking to address the issues that the court addressed?
That is a really amazing question, Jonah. It's a complicated one. I don't have I'm not on any of the committees that are really looking at that directly. But it is my job to let those committee members know, and the Education Committee, House Education Committee, House Appropriations and Finance Committee, that my community needs more funding. Peñasco, Independent School District in particular, needs more funding to address the, historical issues of lack of resources and lack of focus and I think really interest at the state level on the rural communities, the traditional Hispano communities, our Pueblo and indigenous community. I know that this House is really committed to making sure that we are putting the funding in the right places as a result of the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit. And you have my commitment that I will fight. And I will have the conversations that I need to with the committee members. Once we get to the floor, that is where I can make those comments. But my committees don't deal with that directly. But I'm hearing, but I'm committed to making sure that we've got the money for our rural school districts. And I know that there's a commitment on the House side. I am on some standing, you mentioned the standing, the interim committees that I'm on. I'm on economic development as a voting member. I'm on water, natural resources as a voting member, and I participated in a number of New Mexico Finance Authority meetings. So I really got to know that committee quite a bit, and I think that's important for our rural communities as well. NMFA is an agency that it's sort of like quasi-governmental, but they hold the funds and administer loan programs that are really important for communities like Penasco, like the Penasco area, and in terms of getting funding for like water treatment projects, wastewater treatment projects. So I am paying attention in that way, and I'm gonna make I'll sort of find out what folks are talking about in terms of funding especially for rural school districts, and I will let you know.
Do you have any inclination if they be earmarked for specific purposes, like trade schools or preparatory stuff, or would it be generally towards whatever the independent school districts that would be best?
Oh man, I really don't know, but I'm gonna call folks like Andres Romero, who's the chair of the education committee, and I'll talk to the folks I know on appropriations about what that looks like. But I do think that this is the year that this coming year that there will be more funding for trade schools. I think that's really, really important, and we have a legislature that understands that as well.
And
I'll
kind
write it
of on
down.
the education lean as well, I want to make sure I understand something. The way it was explained to me is that the New Mexico Lottery helps fund college opportunities for everybody in the state, but there's a lot of disproportionate fees that are assessed outside of that. And would any of those, I know you said you don't have the answer in front of you, I'm sorry putting you on the spot.
It's okay.
Is there any way you could address that as well? Trying to fix that loophole in the system to address, because I know mobility is a big problem. It's intimidating alone. Growing up in a 2-lane highway village and then moving to Burke or Santa Fe or Las Cruces, and having those fees on top of everything that aren't covered by Pell Grant or the New Mexico Lottery would be a big hindrance. So
Yeah.
that would be great.
I am going to have some conversations about that as well. No, I get it. You think you're going to pay this much for college, and then you get the bill, and it's like, where's this extra $2,000 coming from? $2,000 is a make or break situation. $500 is a make or break situation for many of our families. I know that. So it's one thing for us to say, oh, it's free college, if you have this certain GPA, but it's really not free. We know that. So I don't know. I don't know what that looks like yet. And so let me have those conversations. And I like being put on the spot. I really do. I like homework. I've always liked homework. So I'm going to find out. All right, Jonah?
Is there anything we can do to advocate for ourselves in this lane to get more appropriations thrown our way? I know that there's only so much you could do.
Oh yeah. So you should pay attention to the education committees. So there's one education committee, and I would also look at the LESE Legislative Education Study Committee and see what their budget looks like. You can always advocate for yourself, and I think but you gotta you can come to the roundhouse during the session. You can watch committee meetings on Zoom. I know that last year, one of the I think benefits of the pandemic was that everything was on Zoom, right? The committees were on Zoom, so you could participate from anywhere. And I think that that's an equalizing force. I really believe that our legislature heard that and saw how many more people could participate, how meaningful that was. I hope that there's some version of it that happens in the special and in this coming, in this coming session. I hope it's not business as usual, right back to how it's always been. To the people who can afford gas and a lodging can come up to Santa Fe to advocate. We live in a new world now. So let's take advantage of our technology. You should participate as much as you can in the legislative committees. And I don't know who I can, maybe it's Rafa or Rebecca. I will be sending, or just Penasco Town Hall at Gmail. I can send the links to those committees and when they're happening. right? So that you can participate that way. But I will take that message to the committee and say, hey, like, this is an issue that comes out, and we can't be the only district and the only area that is experiencing this the high cost of education, right? Everybody's feeling it, and we need to address it.
What does the lobbying look like when these kinds of appropriations are being thrown around? I know at the state level it can be different than federal, right? Is it corporations from out of state that come in and try to get things allocated to places that help them more? Or is it more of a grassroots level where there's not much lobbying going on in Santa Fe?
There's a lot of lobbying going on in Santa Fe, right? I don't even know what it feels like yet. I really don't. It's like all I experienced was, phone calls and text messages, but there are lobbyists representing all kinds of, industries, walking the halls of the roundhouse. And there are lots of advocates, so, we've got our education unions that are up there as well. So, I think there are definitely some out of state folks who are coming in and trying to sway legislation. I think that there is significant input from the advocacy, realm, right? Your conservation advocates, your land and water advocates, your education advocates, your environmental justice advocates. These are, they do, people really appreciate, I think the legislators appreciate folks who are coming in who don't represent an industry, right? They really do. It's the people's house. So, I mean, I really, thanks for posting the nmlegis.gov. That'll give you all the information that you need for when committees are happening, and what it looks like. So, I mean, I ran a grassroots campaign. I did community organizing for a long time. So I think that I have, an appreciation for people who are organizing themselves and are advocating for their needs. So, I'm going to put my information again, and you can always call me and text me. Texting's often easier. Email me to get that information. I mean, that's you're kind of hitting on the great challenge that we have is the influence of lobbyists.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is the federal infrastructure bill, this came from a participant, is the federal infrastructure bill money restricted to capital investments, or can some of it go to operating funds?
I think it depends on the agency and on the topic. And that's the problem, is that like what I've been asking for, or what I'd like to create, because I haven't seen it yet, is that like kind of that map of what this bucket does and how and what it funds. And is it going to, like capital outlay does not fund operations, it funds infrastructure projects, right? But how do you pay the people to do the work, right? That's what we're talking about. We need money for people to do the work. And I'm not seeing a lot of, I mean, there will be money that goes to agencies for, for contracts. So what I'd like to see someone create very soon, if it's not our analyst, and it's got to be somebody else, maybe me, I don't know, maybe one of you wants to volunteer to help me, is really the map, the mind map that shows what that looks like. And so it's a question I can't answer because I don't even know. Somebody does know, and I'm hoping I can get a hold of that soon, because I feel like I'm in the dark, because I can't even say, hey, like the school can apply for these funds for this. I don't know yet. I don't think anybody knows yet. We need that. The map of how the money is being spent and who could apply for what and for what purposes.
We're coming kind of to the end of our time, and if there is any other pressing questions around these two topics, in terms of the redistricting or the funding outlay, folks should stick it in the chat right now. I do have a question in terms of kind of like where can we go from here? And I was wondering, does it make sense for, say, the town hall to put together a list? Excuse me, hold on. I'm sorry. Put together a list of like kind of our concerns, something that we've been working on. What are some of the needs of the community? What are the concerns? Where do we see, yeah, just issues, whatever, and present it to
Yes.
you, present it to the county. Does that make sense? Like as a,
Yes. Yes.
going forward?
Can we do another one too with like, let's get some county folks on here, right? So that so they can explain their process for fund allocation. And hopefully I'll have more information in the next couple of weeks about what it looks like, and what agencies are giving out money, and what agencies have grant programs or, project funds, right?
Mhm.
So that you know, and you're able to apply for those. I
Yes.
think we should also maybe try to get someone from, our congressional representatives office on here. Maybe, maybe it's Xochitl Campos Biggs, who is the district director for Teresa Ledger Fernandez. She's awesome. She's from the north. I would love to have her on here. I'll talk to her and see if we can get her on here. Maybe someone from Senator Heinrich's office and Senator Lujan's office to get, because they need to be part of this conversation. Well, those are your tax dollars that go to the state and go to the feds, right? So how do we get them back here?
Yeah,
Yes, I say
think
more regular.
Yeah, we're open to hosting more regular conversations. We were having kind of regular meetings with the county, but they were just giving us the same answer basically for every problem that we presented was like, you don't pay your taxes, or we can't help. It just was like a lot of BS and kind of run around, and like it wasn't fruitful. So we sort of stopped engaging that process. And I mean, obviously people are concerned and people care and want to engage, right? But they want to engage in a way that makes it feel like it's kind of worth it, One of the issues that's really critical in the community is the issue of the Chamisal Transfer Center never being available for people to take their stuff there. And it's creating a lot of tension in the community. It's so problematic. People load their stuff, they get over there, they go like really early, and it's totally full at like 8 a.m, and they can't get in, or they only bring one dumpster, and it's just not enough. And people pay money, right? People pay, and for a lot of people, it's the only waste option. Right. And what's been happening is people are dumping their garbage into the forest, and that's unacceptable. And we know that's not right. And so that is an issue that we've brought to the county before and have gotten like not very adequate answers. Like they can't find any drivers. Whatever their issues are is not our problem to fix. And so, if there's a way that can be relayed to the county, that we are very concerned about it and we want something done like in the immediate.
Yep.
And if anyone else on this call wants to say what they got to say about it, please just raise your little hand and I will open up your mute. All right. Nah. Okay. Well, I guess
I'm hearing it though. I hear it. I am going to call Candace O'Donnell and I'll also call Brent Jaramillo and I will have a conversation with him about what we can do. Like, is this, an appropriate use of ARPA funds is to hire the staff necessary to take care of the things that the community needs, right? Can you just tell me a little bit more? Is it that is it open regularly? Like, how often is it open? Is it like a 3 days a week, 2 days a week thing? I think Jean wants to talk.
Yeah, it's open Tuesday through Saturday, and it's supposed to be open 8 to 5. We also have a reuse center over there, and I was just there today, and he had to close down at noon because the dumpsters were full. So it was, once again, I went over there to do my shift from 12:30 to 3, and at 12 it got closed down. So it is problematic. And
So the issue is that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jean. So the issue is that, like, it's open, but there's nobody from the county picking up the trash from the dumpsters and then like emptying them.
Yes, that's the problem, is that, they come and they bring maybe one new container and then it's filled immediately. There's 3 containers over there, and they need to bring more of them at a time, or usually they go pick them up on Mondays so that we have them for the whole week. But my understanding is that Edward, who's the head of solid waste, they don't pay the drivers enough, and so they don't have enough drivers. They also said maybe they can't pass the drug test, so that's another issue. I don't know if that's an issue or not, but so then Edward came himself to drive, and apparently left the back of the composter compactor open, and so all the trash is on the ground over there.
They picked it up.
And they're slowly picking it up, but it's just been a problem.
Can I thank you. I'd like to understand a little bit more. Was it better before COVID, or has it always been an issue?
Always been an issue.
Well, it's been an issue, but not. It's just really recently that it's gotten really bad.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I think it's about hiring drivers or something, to bring the containers.
Got it. Okay. Thanks. I'm going to have those conversations.
In the chat right now, there is Candace O'Donnell, County Commissioner, her phone number, her email, and Brent Jaramillo's information. So everyone on this call is welcome to shoot him a text, send him an email. I feel like the more people that, raise their voice too, perhaps something will get done. And I don't know if Rebecca wants to speak to the issue or not.
I think actually Jean covered it pretty well to
Okay.
make the point. Thank you, Jean.
Sweet. Yeah, so, I want to, if there's not any other things that folks want to add, I want to really respect the time that we set, because everyone has a schedule, undoubtedly. And, to thank Kristina for coming on this call. And we really want to have partnerships with our legislators, have partnerships with our representatives, because what you're saying is true. We pay for this, we pay for access, we pay for representation. And if we're not having those conversations, then they can't represent, right? And so we want to engage it in the best way that we can. And so I really want to thank everyone for coming on this call. We want to have more calls. We want to have folks participating with the town hall. And I do think that we're going to discuss creating this list. We've been talking about it already, creating a kind of a larger picture, right? Maybe 5 years, kind of looking forward to what we're building in this community, what people want. And we want to have space for people's ideas and really seek out, other voices and contributions into the process. So we can be contacted at penascotownhall@gmail. Check out our Facebook page and connect that way. And I guess thank you so much. And we will be connecting with you again. And you're welcome to send information to myself, to the town hall, to Rebecca, to anyone on here to follow up on the homework.
I got a lot of it.
We'll give you some more homework.
Okay.
And I guess that's all. If anyone else wants to say anything real quick, now's the moment.
If there's anyone who wants to join the community members who are trying to tackle the issue of the transfer station, you can also email penascotownhall@gmail.com. And thank you, Kristina, for your time.
Well, thank you so much. And I think that we should do these much more often, if possible. I'd really like to do one in between the end of the special session and before I go to the regular session, which begins on January 18th, I believe. Maybe it's 19th. So there's, maybe we're doing something on the Saturday before. Saturdays are good for me because, I don't have work duties so much. I'd love to do one. It's a holiday weekend before the next session begins. So maybe it's the weekend before. That's fine with me too. Like, I think it's the 8th or the 9th. That might work. Or an evening is fine. I do think that I want to answer I want to get my homework done on time and give you guys the answers that you need, but also, to kind of give you a sense of what happened in that special. And then we should do one right after the session, right? And then a couple in the summer, and hopefully then we can actually meet and I can have some, carrot cake, at down there and take my daughters to the theater. And we can I hope that we can meet in person.
I mean, we would love to host any conversation that folks want to come to, really, in the theater. I think it's a perfect space for it. And when folks feel safe to do that, we can live stream it. We have the technology to do all the things that, so different folks can access it.
Yeah, I mean, I love this, I love the Zoom, but there's nothing like meeting in person. And I think it's got to be a combination. It's got to be often, right? So just so you guys know, special session starts on Monday at noon, the 6th. And then it goes through, I don't know, probably the 19th or so. I think it might end earlier, but I think we're going to be, but I am completely focused on the legislative session while I am there, which means that I am open and available. I'm moving down there for 2 weeks, right? Like, someone's got to watch this big fat cat that walked, in front of the screen. But I'm moving down there. So I'll be focused. And it also means that I will have some time to really listen to what's going on and to do my homework. So, so keep it coming and call me again. One more time, I'm going to put my phone number and information in the chat. So you have that, take it down, and I'm here. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for organizing this. It's awesome. I love it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. All right.
Bye. Take care.
Take care.